Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of the This Is Gonna Hurt podcast with Jay Gordon Duncan. And if you're wondering why the J, the answer is I'm not a bagpipe player. And if that joke doesn't make any sense, I encourage you to check out episode 0, where I explain that joke, as well as the purpose of the This Is Gonna Hurt podcast, where we talk about faith, family, fitness, finances, and sometimes fun. Well, friends, thanks so much again. I start with thank you after 5 years or whatever we've been doing now. Thank you so much for watching and liking and sharing and commenting. And it means a ton to me. It really does. And you know what? I had a coffee with a friend this week, and he said, you know what? I actually went back and listened to episode 0 to find out why you're not a bagpipe player. And I said, you did? And I was like, I am so sorry. And the reason I apologize is because those first few episodes were bad. Probably the first 50 were bad. But you find a groove. I found a groove, and that groove continues to change. But I appreciate that. And if you hear a lot of dings going on in the background, I just posted something on Facebook and it's popping. So forgive me. And you can see that I'm in home office. Now, why am I in home office? Well, I had scheduled to go into the studio this past week, and I've been telling myself, make the time in the studio like you don't schedule anything over the top of it. Just let that, like hold it. And, I haven't been keeping that promise very well lately. And you want to know why I broke that promise this week? I went to IKEA. Woo. So I was like, IKEA. And guys, I know some people love IKEA, but here it's an hour and 15-minute drive. It's IKEA. It's an hour and 15-minute drive home, and the whole deal. And I was looking forward to spending time with my family, and specifically, one of my daughters needed a dresser, and I was like, okay, let's do this thing. But that meant like the whole afternoon was taken. And you know what? I've started my business, Capitalize, so that I can do that. So that when possible, I'm going to take a break and go and spend time with my family. And so I did that. I was like, you know what? I can sacrifice podcast time to go to IKEA. And I filmed a fun little reel TikTok. You can find it on there, just us playing around. Because I thought, well, if I've got to go to TikTok, excuse me, if I've got to go to IKEA, I'm going to have some fun. And we did. We got what we needed. We had ice cream. We had Mexican food, and just we didn't get Mexican at IKEA, but we were up there. And one of our favorite places is Chewy's. So the whole experience was a lot of fun. But that's why I'm in the home office. And you know what? I'm still just kind of bummy. I got up this morning and I'm training for an ultra marathon. This one is a 50K, 31 miler. And you just got to add on a lot of miles. So I got up this morning, I ran 20 miles. I came home, I made my smoothie. Amy and I watched the show, took a nap on the couch. And then I went to get Starbucks. And I'm basically explaining this stain somewhere right there. Um, and I wanted to go see my daughter at Starbucks. And guys, I spilled a venti iced white mocha. I don't drink iced white mochas, but I've spilled it all over my car. So I had to clean it up and then go back and reorder the drink. So it's been a morning. I have no complaints at all because listen, I'm very thankful to be in a place in life where I can get up and I can run a 20 miler and watch a show with my wife and take a nap on the couch. And it's not even, it's like 12:43. I've already had a full day. I'm very, very thankful. So having said all that, here we are. Now I want to share a story. I may have done a reel about this earlier in the week, but it's a story that came up and I was fascinated by the reaction. And the question that I asked a group of people in one of my networking groups, I'm part of a networking group called 212. And so if you're in the Fredericksburg, Richmond, and surrounding areas, 212 is a great networking group. And I had what we'd call the mentor moment, which is just 5 minutes or less encouragement. And I asked them, I said, what would you pay? Like, how much money would you pay if you could gain an extra 100 hours of your life? How much would you pay to gain an extra 100 hours of your life? And they're like, well, what am I going to do with it? I was like, you can do whatever you want to with it. Let's say it's productive. Like it's an extra 100 hours to work on your health or an extra 100 hours to work on your wealth. Let's not assume it's an extra 100 hours of stress. It's 100 hours going towards what you want. And, a couple of people said, one person said $2,500 and one person said $5,000. And there were a couple of people that said, I don't care about 100 extra hours, 250 bucks. Now I'm going to pause there before I go into it more. This came up from a guy named Jesse Itzler. If you don't follow Jesse Itzler on socials, find him. I like Jesse Itzler a lot. He became famous by writing a rap song for the New York Knicks. Go New York, go New York Knicks, go, something like that. I'm not a Knicks fan. I've never been to a Knicks game, but he was paid to create this theme song that they played during games, and so he had a low level bout of fame writing this this rap song, and crazy enough, he moved into renting jets. I think the company was called NetJets, and he had no experience at this, but he's thought there's got to be a gap somewhere between flying first class, owning your own jet, and then renting a jet so you can fly private. And he didn't know anything about that, but he took this big swing and he created a luxury jet rental business that was super successful. I think Warren Buffett bought it, and he got this massive payday. And it just catapulted him. And he's just this seasoned and serial, I say that in a good way, serial entrepreneur. And he's also an endurance athlete. He lives marathon ready. That at any point in time, let's go run a marathon, let's go run a marathon. And I endeavor to be in that health as well. And I think I could do that. I think it may not always be a fast marathon, but I think pretty much if you knocked on the door, me and my buddy Danny and Chris and a couple other folks I know, that if you said, hey, we're running a marathon tomorrow, I'm like, ready, let's do this. And he does ice plunges, and he does distance running. And this is all related to the question, don't worry. And he is famous for a book with he helped make David Goggins famous. And if you know who David Goggins is, he's an insane endurance athlete, Navy SEAL, incredible story. David Goggins doesn't have an off button, but he said he brought a Navy SEAL in to live with him, and he said for 30 days he had to do anything that he was told to do. Now, he had business meetings and that kind of thing, but outside of the strict parameters of work, anything that the Navy SEAL told him to do, he had to do. So if he got woken up at 2 o'clock in the morning to go run in Central Park, he had to do it. And it's a really interesting book. It's kind of the topic or the theme is kind of kitschy, but within it, you begin to see Jesse break through some barriers in his life, and mental and physical barriers, things that he just didn't know. I believe the first thing he was told to do was do 100 pull-ups. He's like, I can't do 100 pull-ups. And he's like, well, we're going to stay here until you do. And the book is about, that you have limits, but most of them are mental, or many of them are mental. And so he's written a couple of books. He continues to speak. I saw him speak at 10X GrowthCon down in Miami. I think that was 2018. Very inspirational speaker. But all of that to say, Jesse works on this principle that if you want to learn how to do something, you can find 100 hours over the course of the year to do it. And many of us would go, I don't have 100 hours. And his point is 100 hours is roughly 17 or 18 minutes a day. And most of us could find 17 or 18 minutes a day. So if we wanted to get better, or if we wanted to learn a new skill, or we wanted to improve ourselves, if we spent 17 or 18 minutes a day, by the end of the year, we would have, 100 hours. And we would be able to do that thing. Most of us, many of us waste 100 hours on the toilet looking at TikTok, or looking at Instagram reels, or scrolling mindlessly, or one episode of Friends or Seinfeld or whatever your TV show is, 22 minutes. And many of us find time to do that. And Jesse's point is that if you want to improve your life, 100 hours a day, 100 hours a year is easy to find. You just take 18 minutes. And so when someone says, I don't have time to work out, aside from any physical limitations, you probably have 18 minutes a day. You could probably wake up 18 minutes earlier. You could stay up 18 minutes late. And so in my question to the group is, how much would you pay for an extra 100 hours a year? My point was, you already have 100 hours a year. If you want to get better at social media, then spend 100 hours a year on it. If you want to get better at physically, spend 100 hours a year doing it. One of my goals in 2023 is to learn how to jump rope, and I haven't had to spend 18 minutes a day. I'm sure when I go back and listen to this podcast, I have mixed hours and minutes, but 18 minutes a day is 100 hours a year. But I've learned how to jump rope this year. I know it's kind of crazy. I just never knew how to do it, but I do it now. And it didn't take anywhere near 18 minutes a day. So going back to the networking group, I asked them, how much would you pay for an extra 100 hours a year? And some folks were like, I would pay 2,500, 5,000 for it. And there were a couple people in the group, and they're like, I don't care about an extra 100 hours, $250. And one of them's like, to play video games. And I'm like, you can do whatever you want to do with it. Now, this is not going to be a criticism against those couple of people. This is an observation of perspective. Everybody gets to do what they do with their time. I know what I want to do with my time. I know what they want to do with their time. But this is an observation of perspective. The people who didn't care about the 100 hours were young. I'm guessing in their 20s. I'm 52. And the people in the group that would pay money for it, I think there's a perspective of it gets harder and harder with demands of family and spouses and partners and kids and work to find that time. And we have less of it than we've ever had. And so the older folks in the group were like, I'll pay this much money. And the younger ones were like, I don't care. So the question is, do you value your time? How do you use it? Do you recognize that you already have enough time? And what would be the impact if you spent 18 minutes a day over the course of a year? Imagine if you spent that much extra time with someone you love. Imagine if you spent that much extra time with working on your physical fitness or reading or marketing your business. 18 minutes a day, 100 hours a year puts you ahead of your competition and gets you that much closer to your goal. So my encouragement, my friends, is you have the time to do this. You do. The question is, what do you want to spend it on? And the next thing is, are you disciplined enough to do it? Are you disciplined enough to spend 18 minutes a day over a course of a year working on something? So here we are. You're going to listen to this probably July 3rd. You've got the second half of 2023 looking at you. And if you spent 18 minutes a day working on something, you would have great progress by the end of the year. That would be, 50 hours. So my friends, give that a shot. I want this to be an encouragement to you, not a rebuke. Just go find the 18 minutes. And I want you to know I got a lot of great things coming down. We're going to have an announcement of a huge seminar coming up. And I have reached out to some crazy folks for some interviews. We're going to see if it comes through. I really, really, really would like to see what happens. If they respond, hopefully so. I'm sure it's time for me to mix in an interview here. But friends, I want to say thank you so much for watching and listening. And I can't wait to see you again next week. Thanks, friends.